Welcome back to DataDash. My name is Paul Sampson, and today is Thursday, July 10th of 2025. And folks, I hope you're having a great week so far because what a week it has been. We've gone from what felt like watching paint dry to printing a brand new all-time high here for Bitcoin. Ethereum's caught a strong bid here as well, with much of the crypto market finally showing signs of life. So the big question now is, what should we be watching as we wrap up this week and head into the weekend, right? That's exactly what we're going to be diving into today. So be sure to grab yourself a cup of coffee, whether it's hot or iced, and let's begin. And before we dive in, folks, a quick shout out to our channel partner, WeeX, one of the fastest growing crypto exchanges out there right now. If you're looking to start trading or just want a fresh platform with deep liquidity, WeeX offers over 600 trading pairs across both spot and futures. It's beginner friendly, it's fast, and the best part is that there's no KYC required. Just verify your email and phone. And right now, if you sign up using our link down below in the description, you'll get a 20% deposit bonus up to $30,000 in rewards just for getting started. Huge thank you to WeeX for supporting the channel. Now let's jump into the charts. All right, folks, Bitcoin has put in a new all-time high depending on what exchange you're looking at. Currently, I'm looking at the Bybit exchange here, where it does appear that it's pretty much just came up and tapped that region basically to the dollar, it looks like. But if you look at other exchanges such as Coinbase, Binance, etc., Bitcoin has definitely taken the all-time high on pretty much all of them, with a couple $100 or $50, what have you. Now, the question truly becomes, is this an area where if we break it once again here, as we come into these new all-time highs, are we going to see yet again another short-lived rally to a couple $1,000s above the high and then another pullback just below? Or is this going to be where we truly see that real deal breakout, where we see a sizable leg up to maybe 130, 140, $50,000 Bitcoin? Well, that's what we're going to kind of highlight here. And I want to kind of break down what we've seen throughout this week as well, because we had some pretty interesting setups that I personally looked to throughout the week that essentially has helped guide us up to this region here, right? And you'll notice that I have just 3 levels on the chart at the moment. We're going to highlight a couple different ones here. One being the all-time high, of course. That's one of the main areas we're going to be paying attention for here. Then I have 2 other key areas just down and below here. One just below about $98,000. The other one sits at about $105,000. And one of these, this is a high volume level known as a naked point of control or an untapped point of control. And this is left over from a high time frame range that at the moment, not necessarily something I'm looking to target heavily from where we are. But if we do come back into this region here, that becomes something else that I'd look down to just locally, right? Not the craziest area to look down to, back to 105,000, where we're pretty much trading at just a couple days back. Now, I had been heavily looking back towards about this $93,000, as we have a pretty valid harmonic setup here that I've been touching on for the last few months. And that is this setup right here, where we completed right into the completion zone right at the end of May when we were targeting it. And the main target of this setup was down actually to about 93,000. We hit the brakes right at 98,000, just about. So about a $5,000 miss here at the moment, about a 5% front run so far. And do we come down to that region is the question, right? I'm going to break that down a little bit more in detail in the Traders Club today on a members update. Otherwise, I'll be breaking into that pattern, that setup a little bit more on the macro outlook on Monday's video. But today, I did want to just kind of highlight where the price action may be heading a little bit more locally, and that we can kind of look to in the next coming days here, maybe walk into the weekend and see what we can anticipate as we kind of come into the end of July, where many were really anticipating the summer to be the summer lull, really, right? Which for the overall market has felt like it has been more than a lull, where there's actually some altcoins making new lows. A lot of things are making all-time lows at that as well. And really one of the only things out here that is actually making new highs and somewhat exciting is Bitcoin. And while I think that many are kind of ignoring that outlook, as an altcoin investor, and if anybody is in this market for the long haul and would like to see the success of the market, we need Bitcoin to succeed. So this is actually a pretty good sight to see here. Even if we do come down to that shark target, it's really not, it's remained not a huge ordeal, right? This was a 10 to 15% pullback from the areas that we've been trading at. Once again, we front ran that target area that I've been looking for by 5% at the moment, at least. But the overall idea here is that we would see that next leg up towards 130,000, 135,000 by the end of the summer, right? So by September is the time frame I was looking at. Not married to that time, but overall that was my outlook remaining. So real quick, just to highlight the two biggest regions at the moment, if I was looking for pullback, and once again, this is on something of the fact of if I'm preparing for a round of fresh entries in this market, whether it be Bitcoin or whether when Bitcoin hits a key region and I identify the altcoins of choice, because if Bitcoin is to pull back to anything of major support, usually the altcoins are hitting their major supports as well. Without even looking at a chart, you can almost just easily identify that those are ideal entry areas, right? So if I was looking for two key zones that on Bitcoin would be the ones I'd like to get, and this is what the beauty of technical analysis is, because right now I'm looking at this chart. It's very simple for you, and the best way to put this as an example is that if I was to take everything off the chart, where would you say would be the key regions that Bitcoin is most likely to come down to if we got to pull back and see major support for us to prepare and plan and be strategically ready to gauge the context around that region to be able to put on some risk at that time? This is what is going to be something that guides us at those levels, right? So not only do we have one of the highest time frame volume levels sitting right here at 105,000, currently it's our 50-day moving average, so there's just a little bit of confluence here. To me, this would be a decent spot. If we were to just come up, sweep the high and come back down to this level, then yeah, that's something I'd be looking for. Locally here, you could probably see a local gold pocket lining up with that, which is exactly what it would be. So personally, now I'd be looking at that area as probably more of a mid-tier option. The level that I've got my eyes on pretty heavily in the case of a pullback here, which spoiler alert at this point, once again, we've cleared that 109, which is the level that we've been talking about for the last few weeks as well, that if we did flip that, I was on board with more upside. And so at the moment, I do anticipate we see a little bit more upside here, whether it's 114, whether it's 120. The issue does lie with this one right here, because this is our high time frame averages for the last 60 days. And I'm sorry, this is our high time frame average for the last 6 months, as well as the last quarter. And it's the exact same level. And on top of that, it is a liquidity sweep. As it is right below the current low, meaning that anybody that's gotten long in these last few days, and if we do see a sizable move here, all the stop losses are where they're here. If they even got long in this region, where's the stop losses moved to? It's going to be moved to here. And we have our 200-day moving average scooting up into this region now. Now, originally this was down at that 93K or coming into it, right? And we were stacking on some confluence around that region there, and more time has passed now. It is now moving up to this region here, as well as price. So as price rises higher, we get some of our key levels of Fibonacci retracements increase, and we have to be able to adapt to some new information here. So this is the main level, in my opinion, that 97,800. So you can mark those on your charts. We'll come back to that. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Monday's video. Now let's take a look at really what's happened this week and what can happen in the near term. What's the next key levels here for Bitcoin? So when Bitcoin made this move right here and we came up to right at that exact high, at the all-time high currently, we did so on the outer shelf of a trend-based gold pocket. All right, and you can see how that's right there sitting at exactly $12,070, literally where we topped out at before we got in this little sideways consolidation. So getting any higher at this point, I would imagine that we're going to see a little bit of resistance here at 114 area. Okay, so that's going to be the next major level I'd look to for any kind of pushback here. And if we do come up and see that level met, you come back and start living back below. That's when we can start targeting some of these lower levels once again. Until that said, this is how we have to look at the price, right? We're going to be challenging into some new levels here, more than likely in the next coming days here. And if we were to push straight through this region, the next major areas are 119,500 to 124. So let's call it 120 to 125. These are the next major resistance areas. I would say that if we were going to see a push to it and we start to get any type of a pullback, and I just mentioned this in the sense of even just building up the continuation now of the trend, that's probably where it's going to be offered up at, whether it's 114 or 120 to 124. Now, I mentioned I wanted to cover some of the shorter time frame outlooks on what basically occurred this week, how we ended up maneuvering through some of these moves here on Bitcoin, and what has led us to the region that we're pushing into now. So this is the previous week range on Bitcoin, something I track each and every week. And when we started off this week, we were trading right here, and we basically came up to it on Monday. We came right down into this area here, which was our point of control. So when we started off the week, this was our naked point of control, essentially. So this was a key area that we were likely to meet this week. You can also look to the range low here at that point also. But what happens is every day we get new information and new data, right? So we're looking at this here. We're anticipating a move back down towards our point of control, potentially our low side of the range, right? Simple range rotation at that point. What we then got was a Monday low puts in right here. Tuesday begins. We sweep the low for the previous day, which is Monday. Monday's range pretty much sets the pace of the week. So this is our high. This is our low. We slowly grind back up towards the Monday high here, right? Get a little rejection today, which was actually our daily range for today. I don't want to get into going into every single daily range for the week. But overall, you got a simple sweep the low and go of the Monday low here, and a run of Monday's low to Monday high. All right, that was our normal C there as well. So we got a little bit of a range rotation for the week, a daily range right here. And then, of course, we got the breakout that sent us up to the all-time high at that point. Now in Discord, I highlighted that the line in the sand for the upside to the all-time high was that previous week high. And then if we cleared that, it was all-time highs on deck, which we can see here. We got the breakout, back test of it perfectly, and we got the run up to the all-time high. So short term, many moves coming and going here. At the moment, we are living well above that $109,000 area, which has been the overall range that I've been looking to. So we've gotten above that. We've gotten above last week's high at this point. And we are basically tapping into that all-time high at the moment. So we didn't necessarily meet it on Bybit here, but we did meet it across the board elsewhere. We've got new all-time highs on the NASDAQ and S&P 500. So it was only a matter of time before Bitcoin kind of joined the party there. And in the current state here, I do anticipate that Bitcoin actually pushes through more than likely up towards about that 114. Taking a new look and see how things are when we get there, and potentially up to about 119 to 124. That's our next major areas here. That's going to translate very well into the altcoins, I believe, which Ethereum is one of them. Let's take a peek at how that Ethereum is doing. So ETH here had a weekly pivot generate this week. So this was the average of last week. Started off the week right here. We got a small little pullback right to it, and that was the launch pad right from there, right? So we got that real nice move right off the weekly pivot, which once again, last week's average, this week's target, and so far heading back towards the highs here. So that high level right now sits at about 2,887, give or take, call it 2,900. And that's where the highs come in at the moment. Here's the next likely area of resistance. Honestly, I imagine if we came up to it, we would get that final run up to that $3,100 target area. And then once again, gauge the market, see how things are looking across the board. Between that 3,100, if claimed, 3,300 is another key region up here. And that's what I'd be looking for as far as any new targets to the upside from this point. And once again, not only is that the next harmonic target from a harmonic pattern that I identified here once we came down into this region, but it's just a simple gold pocket retracement. So of this high down to that low, you can see that that's where the gold pocket Fibonacci sits right here. So that's a 61.8 to 65% retrace of this overall drop here, where we are likely to come into very natural retracement zone to come into for an asset after such a fall. So big level up here, 3,100. If we clear it, like I said, 33 is on deck after that. And if I'm looking at a big region to prepare, plan, strategize for if we were to see a pullback and to look for some fresh entries. Well, of course, we have some really big regions down here like 17 and 1800. The more modest area that I'm be looking at is this 2250, very similar to Bitcoin. That 2250 is a high time frame average from last quarter. So once again, similar to moving averages, 200-day, 50-day, whatever the case is. This is a 30-day average that does not move, and it has a high likelihood of getting met in the following session. So in this case, the session we're looking at is the quarter. So this is the average of last quarter. It's very likely to be met this quarter. Quarter's a long time, and we just began. So we can see a rise to the upside well before we get to there. And a lot of times when we do start quarters like this, where we have these averages down below us and the momentum is building like this, we actually tend to see a pretty decent move up. And then you get these quick flushes at some point, right? Where you get these massive liquidations, where you have a very fast drop at some point. They usually come right into these averages and then they bounce from there. So something I'll be on the alert for, be updating along the way. If I was looking for an area to fresh entry, get into ETH, it'd be around that 2250 down towards even 1800 if we were to see. So I'd be stacking along those lines personally. Of course, do what you wish for yourself. All right, folks. And if you'd like to stay ahead of the curve with real-time market updates, trade setups, and everything I'm watching each and every single day, be sure to check out the DataDash Traders Club, available exclusively through our website at DataDashPro.com. That's also where you can subscribe to Nick's Dash Report newsletter, which is a breakdown of macro trends, crypto crypto insights and key market analysis as well. Everything's all in one place over there at DataDashPro.com. Thank you as always for tuning in. I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.